What if White Russians won the Russian Civil War? After the abdication of the last Tsar, Nicholas II, in March 1917, Russia descended into chaos. The Bolsheviks seized power, but their hold on the country was tenuous at best. The vast majority of the population, including the army, was still loyal to the Tsar. This led to the Russian Civil War, which saw the Reds, the Bolsheviks, fight against the Whites, who were made up of anti-Bolshevik forces. The war was brutal, with both sides committing atrocities. But as the war dragged on, the Whites began to get the upper hand. By 1919, they had pushed the Reds out of most of European Russia, and it seemed as though the war was turning in their favor. Then came the intervention of foreign powers. The United States, Britain, France, and Japan all sent troops to help the White Russians. But this only made things worse for the White Russians. The foreigners were not interested in fighting the Reds. They were only interested in taking Russia's vast natural resources for themselves. They also did not want the White Russians to win the war because that would make them too powerful. So instead, they began to meddle in the affairs of the White Russian government, which was made up of various factions that could not agree on anything. As the fighting continued, the White Russians began to lose ground. But what if the Reds had lost? If the White Russians had won the Civil War, then Russia would have been a very different place today. Russia would have remained a monarchy with the last Tsar's son, Alexei, on the throne. Russia would also likely be much more anti-Semitic than it is today. Many of the White Russians were members of the Black Hundreds, an anti-Semitic paramilitary group. They would have likely pursued a policy of ethnic cleansing, forcing Jews to either convert to Christianity or leave Russia. In addition, Russia would probably still be a major player in world affairs. The country is rich in natural resources and has a large population. With a little help from their foreign allies, the White Russians could have easily defeated the Reds and established a strong anti-communist state. Perhaps this state would have become the center of a new conservative international, a counterweight to the Soviet Union in the 20th century. However, it is important to remember that the Reds were not just fighting against the White Russians. They were also fighting against the foreign powers that were trying to take over Russia. And it is very possible that even if the White Russians had won the Civil War, the foreign powers would have eventually kicked them out anyway. So, what do you think? Would the world be a better place if the White Russians had won the Russian Civil War? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.